There is something happening inside your body right now, quietly, without warning, without pain, and it may have been building for years before you ever noticed a single symptom. Most people over 60 wake up, drink whatever they've always drunk in the morning, and assume that because they feel fine, they are fine. But feeling fine and being fine are two very different things, and nowhere is that gap more dangerous than inside your kidneys and your bloodstream. By the time most people realize something is wrong, the damage has already been progressing, silently beneath the surface, for months, sometimes years. The kidneys don't send pain signals early. Blood sugar doesn't announce itself with obvious warnings. These systems degrade quietly, and that is exactly what makes them so dangerous to ignore. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret. She was 67 years old, active for her age, not overweight, didn't drink alcohol, didn't smoke. She came to me because she was feeling more tired than usual, a little swollen in the ankles, some mild brain fog in the afternoons, nothing dramatic, nothing she thought was serious. She had been dismissing these signs for almost 2 years, assuming it was simply age catching up with her. When we ran her labs, her kidney filtration rate had dropped significantly. She was in the early stages of chronic kidney disease, and her fasting blood sugar was elevated into the pre-diabetic range. 2 systems under stress at the same time, and she had no idea. Not because she hadn't been paying attention, but because her body had been compensating silently, the way kidneys always do, long before the symptoms became impossible to ignore. What I discovered in Margaret's case, and what I've seen repeated in patients time and again over decades of practice, is that what we consume in the first hour of waking up has a profound and measurable impact on how our kidneys filter, how our blood sugar responds, and how much inflammatory load our body carries into the rest of the day. I'm Dr. Alan Mandel, and I've spent my career studying the relationship between lifestyle, nutrition, and long-term organ function. What I'm going to share with you today isn't a trend or a fad. It's grounded in published research, studies from institutions like Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and the National Institutes of Health, and it's information I believe every person over 60 needs to hear. Because the drinks you choose in the morning are either flushing your kidneys and stabilizing your blood sugar, or they are quietly stressing them. And for most people, no one has ever told them which is which. Before I show you the 5 drinks that can begin reversing this damage, I need you to understand something critical, something most people completely get wrong about kidney and blood sugar health after 60. And it starts with a dangerous assumption. Most people over 60 carry a quiet assumption about their health that feels reasonable on the surface. And that assumption is this: if my doctor hasn't told me something is wrong, then nothing is wrong. It is one of the most dangerous beliefs in medicine. Not because doctors are careless, but because kidney damage and blood sugar dysregulation are invisible in their early stages. Standard checkups don't always catch the early decline, and by the time your numbers appear abnormal on a routine lab report, your kidneys may have already lost a significant portion of their functional capacity. Here is what most people don't realize. You can lose up to 40% of your kidney function and still feel completely normal, still wake up, still walk around, still believe everything is fine. The kidneys are remarkably resilient organs. They compensate, they adapt, they keep working even as they are being slowly overwhelmed. And that compensation is not protection. It is delay. It is your body quietly buying time while the damage accumulates beneath the surface. The same is true for blood sugar. A 2021 study published in the journal Diabetes Care found that the majority of adults with prediabetes, a condition where blood sugar is elevated enough to cause organ stress, have no idea they have it. No symptoms, no signals, nothing that interrupts daily life. Yet inside their blood vessels and kidneys, chronic low-grade inflammation is already doing damage that will compound over years. After 60, this becomes even more critical. As we age, our kidneys naturally lose some of their filtration efficiency. Our insulin sensitivity declines. Our body's ability to regulate blood sugar after a meal slows. These are normal physiological changes, but they mean the margin for error becomes much smaller. The habits that might have been manageable at 40 become genuinely harmful at 65 or 70. And here is where the morning routine becomes so important. The first 60 to 90 minutes after waking up are a metabolic window. Your cortisol is naturally elevated, Your body is transitioning from a fasted state. Your kidneys are beginning their active filtration cycle for the day. What you put into your body during this window either supports those systems or stresses them. There is very little neutral ground. What I find most troubling, and what I see constantly in older patients, is that many of the morning habits people believe are healthy are actually quietly working against them. They are drinking things that spike inflammation, elevate blood sugar, and dehydrate kidney tissue before the day has even properly begun. And they have no idea, because nobody told them, because it doesn't feel bad at first. And that is exactly what makes it so serious. Let's talk about the first and perhaps most common mistake. And I want you to pay close attention here because this one surprises almost everyone. The drink is fruit juice. Commercially prepared, store-bought fruit juice, orange juice, apple juice, cranberry juice cocktail, consumed first thing in the morning on an empty stomach before anything else enters the body. For decades, a glass of orange juice in the morning was considered practically a health ritual. The imagery is built into the culture. A bright glass of juice alongside breakfast, a symbol of wholesomeness and nutrition. And because it comes from fruit, most people assume it is doing them good. That assumption, for someone over 60 with any degree of blood sugar sensitivity or kidney stress, can be genuinely harmful. Here is what is actually happening. When commercial fruit juice is processed, even juice labeled as 100% natural or no sugar added, the fiber that naturally exists in whole fruit is stripped away entirely. What remains is a highly concentrated solution of fructose and glucose. No fiber to slow absorption. No pulp to buffer the sugar load. When that liquid enters an empty stomach first thing in the morning, it moves directly into the bloodstream with almost nothing to slow it down. The blood sugar spike that follows is steep and fast. And for older adults whose insulin response is already slower and less efficient, that spike lands hard. The pancreas scrambles to produce enough insulin. Blood sugar rises sharply, then drops. Inflammation markers elevate in response. And this sequence, repeated every morning, year after year, quietly compounds into something serious. A 2019 study published in the British Medical Journal followed more than 100,000 adults and found that higher consumption of fruit juice was independently associated with increased risk of type 2 diabetes, separate from total sugar intake, separate from other dietary factors. The juice itself and the speed with which its sugar content enters the blood was the key variable. But here is what most people don't hear about: the kidney connection. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, the kidneys are forced to work significantly harder. The filtration system, a network of tiny vessels called glomeruli, is placed under increased pressure each time blood sugar elevates sharply. Over time, this pressure damages those vessels. It is one of the primary mechanisms by which diabetes leads to kidney disease. And it doesn't require a diabetes diagnosis to begin. It can happen in the pre-diabetic range. It can happen with patterns most people don't even consider problematic. Starting your morning with a blood sugar spike is not a neutral act after 60. It is the beginning of a cascade that your kidneys spend the rest of the day trying to manage. Now let's talk about the second mistake. And this one is not about what people are drinking. It is about what they are not drinking and the slow, quiet damage that absence creates. Dehydration is one of the most underdiagnosed and underappreciated threats to kidney health in older adults. And it is not dramatic dehydration, not the kind where you feel dizzy or desperately thirsty. It is the mild, chronic, persistent dehydration that builds quietly over months and years, where the body is consistently running slightly below its optimal fluid level, day after day, without any single moment that feels like a crisis. Here is what makes this so dangerous after 60. The sensation of thirst diminishes significantly with age. Research published in the Journal of Gerontology has documented that older adults consistently underestimate their own hydration needs. The thirst signal becomes less reliable, less urgent, less accurate, which means that by the time an older adult actually feels thirsty, they're often already meaningfully dehydrated, and their kidneys have already been compensating. The kidneys require an adequate, consistent flow of fluid to do their job properly. Their primary function is filtration, pulling waste products, excess minerals, and metabolic byproducts out of the blood and excreting them in urine. Without sufficient water, that filtration slows. Waste products become more concentrated. The risk of crystal formation, which leads to kidney stones, increases. And chronic low-level dehydration has been directly associated in multiple studies with accelerated kidney function decline in older adults. A large-scale study from the National Kidney Foundation found that adults who consistently drink fewer than 6 cups of fluid per day show measurably faster rates of kidney function decline compared to those who are adequately hydrated. 6 cups. Many older adults I see in practice are drinking 3 or 4, and they are not aware of the deficit because they don't feel thirsty. What I want you to understand is this: your kidneys do not send pain. They do not give you a warning signal when they are struggling. They compensate quietly, filter at reduced capacity, and the damage accumulates beneath the surface, long before any number on a lab report tells you something has gone wrong. Dehydration is not just uncomfortable. In an aging body, it is a slow and steady form of organ stress, and the morning is the most important window. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your body wakes up in a naturally dehydrated state. Your blood is more concentrated. Your kidneys are ready to begin active filtration. What you drink or don't drink in that first hour either restores your fluid balance and supports filtration, or it leaves your kidneys working in a depleted environment for hours into the day. Most people reach for coffee first. Some reach for that fruit juice we just discussed. A significant number eat something and drink very little until midday. By that point, the kidneys have already been running below optimal capacity for the better part of the morning. This is not a dramatic event. It is a quiet, daily, compounding form of stress, and it is entirely preventable. I want to take a moment here and make sure you truly understand what is happening inside your kidneys as you age. Because once you see this clearly, the importance of everything else I'm sharing will make complete sense. Each of your kidneys contains approximately 1 million tiny filtering units called nephrons. Each nephron contains a cluster of microscopic blood vessels, the glomerulus, that acts like a precision filter, separating waste from nutrients, pulling toxins from the blood, regulating fluid balance, controlling blood pressure, and managing electrolyte levels. It is an extraordinarily complex and delicate system operating continuously every minute of every day without rest. Here is what most people do not know: nephrons cannot regenerate. When they are damaged, they are gone permanently. The kidney compensates by forcing the remaining nephrons to work harder, to filter more blood, to carry a heavier load. For a period of time, this compensation works. Function appears normal. Lab values look acceptable. But the remaining nephrons are now under chronic stress. And under that stress, they deteriorate faster. After the age of 60, kidney filtration rate naturally declines at a rate of roughly 1% per year. This is a normal physiological change. But when blood sugar dysregulation, chronic dehydration, inflammation, or poor morning dietary habits are layered on top of that natural decline, the rate of deterioration accelerates significantly. A 2022 study from Johns Hopkins found that adults over 65 with even mildly elevated fasting blood sugar, levels that don't meet the clinical definition of diabetes, showed kidney filtration decline at nearly double the rate of their peers with stable blood sugar. Not diabetics, not people with diagnosed kidney disease, simply adults with blood sugar that was running a little high. The kind of elevation that most people in that range never worry about, because they've been told they are borderline or just watch your diet. Borderline in the context of aging kidneys is not a comfortable place to be. It is a place where the margin is shrinking. And here's the piece that genuinely concerns me most in my practice. When blood sugar is chronically elevated, even mildly, the kidneys begin leaking a protein called albumin into the urine. This process, called microalbuminuria, is one of the earliest measurable signs of kidney stress. Most people never know they have it because it requires a specific urine test that isn't part of a standard annual checkup. It produces no symptoms. It causes no discomfort. It progresses quietly beneath the surface for years before kidney function begins to visibly decline on standard lab work. This is why what happens in the morning matters so much. Every morning you flood your bloodstream with sugar that spikes unnecessarily. Every morning your kidneys begin their day's work dehydrated. Every morning, chronic low-grade inflammation goes unaddressed. You are contributing in a small but real and cumulative way to a process of silent organ damage that compounds across months and years. The good news, and there is genuinely good news here, is that this process is not inevitable. It is not irreversible in its early stages. The right morning habits introduced consistently have been shown in peer-reviewed research to meaningfully slow kidney filtration decline, reduce blood sugar variability, lower inflammatory markers, and improve long-term outcomes for older adults. That is what I am going to show you. But first, I need to ask you something. Before I reveal the 5 specific drinks, I want to pause for a moment, because I genuinely want to know something about you. Think about what you did this morning. Think about the first thing you consumed after waking up. Was it coffee? Was it tea? Was it juice? Was it water? Was it nothing at all? Did you skip fluids and go straight to food or activity? And how many of you honestly have never thought about this as something that could matter for your kidneys or your blood sugar? I ask because this is where change actually begins, not with information alone, but with the moment you connect the information to your own life. The patients who improve the most are not the ones who learn the most facts. They are the ones who look at their own daily habits with honest, curious eyes and say, I didn't know this. I didn't realize what this was doing. Now I'm going to do something different. If you have been drinking commercial fruit juice every morning for years, thinking you were doing something healthy, this is not a moment for guilt. This is a moment for clarity. If you have been waking up and going straight to coffee or skipping fluids entirely, your kidneys have simply been managing as best they can. They are resilient, they compensate, and they can benefit from change even now, even after years of unintentional neglect. Drop a comment and tell me, what is your morning drink right now? And after you watch the rest of this video, what do you think you're going to change? I read through the comments, and your experiences genuinely matter to this community. The people watching this video right now are not alone, and the choices ahead are more powerful than most of them realize. Now, let me show you what actually works. What I'm about to explain is something that I believe every person over 60 needs to understand, because it reveals why blood sugar and kidney health are not two separate concerns. They are a single, interconnected system, and when one begins to fail, it accelerates the failure of the other. It works like this. When blood sugar is chronically elevated, even mildly, the kidneys are forced to filter a heavier, more glucose-laden blood supply. The pressure inside the glomeruli, those tiny filtration vessels, increases. Over time, this elevated pressure damages the vessel walls. As those walls become damaged, they become more permeable. Protein begins leaking through. The kidneys begin to lose filtration efficiency. Here's where the loop becomes dangerous. As kidney function declines, the kidneys become less effective at clearing waste products from the blood. One of those waste products is uric acid. As uric acid accumulates, it promotes insulin resistance, the condition in which your body's cells become less responsive to insulin's signal to absorb glucose. Insulin resistance means blood sugar runs higher. Higher blood sugar means more pressure on the kidneys. More kidney damage means more waste accumulation. More waste accumulation means worse insulin resistance. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. Each rotation around that loop tightens the spiral, and it can begin with blood sugar levels that most people consider unremarkable, a fasting glucose of 105, 108, 112. Not diabetic, not alarming to most physicians in a brief annual checkup. But inside the body of a 68-year-old, those numbers, sustained across years, are doing something quiet and real. A landmark study from the American Journal of Kidney Disease followed adults with prediabetes for 8 years and found that nearly 1 in 3 developed measurable kidney function decline, not those who progressed to full diabetes, but those who remained in the pre-diabetic range throughout the study period. 1 in 3, quietly, without major symptoms, without dramatic intervention. The morning is the most vulnerable window in this cycle. The body wakes up with naturally elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, which already creates a mild blood sugar rise. Add a sugary drink, a dehydrated kidney system, and an inflammatory morning food environment, and you have created the perfect conditions for this loop to accelerate. Every morning, compounding, what I want you to understand is that the power to interrupt this cycle is real, and it begins with something as simple and as deliberate as what you choose to drink within the first hour of waking. That is not an exaggeration. It is what the research consistently shows. Here is something I rarely hear discussed, even in medical circles, and it may be the single most overlooked factor in morning kidney and blood sugar health. It is not just what you drink, it is when and in what sequence. The order in which fluids and foods enter your body in the morning determines how sharply your blood sugar rises, how effectively your kidneys begin filtration, and how much inflammatory load your system carries into the hours ahead. Most people think about what to eat and drink. Almost no one thinks about the sequence. Let me explain what the research shows. Your kidneys are at their peak filtration readiness in the early morning hours. Overnight, while you slept, your body has been in a repair and consolidation state. Your kidneys have been concentrating urine, conserving water, and preparing for the active filtration cycle that begins with waking. When you drink adequate water first, before anything else, you are delivering fluid to a system that is optimally positioned to use it. Filtration begins immediately. Waste products that accumulated overnight begin to move. The kidneys begin their day supported. When you drink water last, after coffee, after juice, after food, the kidneys have already been working for 1 to 2 hours in a dehydrated, stressed state. The window is partially closed. The benefit is reduced. Similarly with blood sugar, the sequence of what enters the stomach first affects how steeply glucose rises. Research published in Diabetes Care demonstrated that when water and certain low glycemic fluids are consumed before a carbohydrate-containing meal, the blood sugar spike following that meal is measurably lower than when the same meal is eaten without that prior fluid intake. The fluid itself changes the rate of gastric emptying, slowing how quickly food moves from the stomach into the small intestine, which is where most sugar absorption occurs. This means that drinking the right fluids in the right order before the first solid meal of the morning creates a metabolic buffer, a window of protection. It is not complicated. It does not require expensive supplements or precise measurements, but it does require intention. It requires knowing what to do and doing it before the day pulls your attention elsewhere. There is one more timing detail that matters. The duration between waking and consuming the first kidney supportive drink should be as short as possible, ideally within the first 15 to 20 minutes of waking. Not 30 minutes later after you have checked your phone and had a cup of coffee. Within the first 15 minutes. That is when your body is most primed to receive and respond to what you give it. Now you understand the why. You understand the danger, the cycle, the timing, the compounding. Let me show you exactly what to drink. Everything I have shared with you up to this point has been building toward this moment. These are not random folk remedies. Each of these 5 drinks has published research behind it, specific mechanisms of action, and particular benefits for the aging kidney and blood sugar system. Drink them in the morning. Drink them consistently, and pay attention to the sequence I recommend. The first drink, plain warm water with fresh lemon juice. Begin here. This is drink number 1, and it should be consumed within 15 minutes of waking. Warm water, not hot, not cold, stimulates kidney filtration and rehydrates the body after the overnight fasting period. The lemon juice provides citrate, a natural compound that binds to calcium in the urine and reduces the risk of kidney stone formation. A 2018 study in the journal Urolithiasis found that daily lemon water consumption significantly reduced stone recurrence in patients with a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones. Beyond stones, citrate has been shown to mildly alkalinize urine, reducing the irritative load on kidney tubules. The mild acidity also slows gastric emptying slightly, creating a small but real buffer against blood sugar spikes when food follows. Squeeze half a fresh lemon into 8 to 12 ounces of warm water. No sugar, no sweetener. Drink it first before anything else. The second drink, unsweetened green tea. Green tea is one of the most researched beverages in the world for metabolic and kidney health, and the evidence specific to older adults is particularly compelling. Green tea contains a class of antioxidants called catechins, most significantly EGCG or epigallocatechin galati. A 2021 meta-analysis published in the European Journal of Nutrition reviewed 14 separate studies and found that regular green tea consumption was associated with meaningfully lower fasting blood sugar and improved insulin sensitivity. In the kidneys specifically, EGCG has been shown to reduce oxidative stress within kidney tubule cells, one of the primary mechanisms of age-related filtration decline. Green tea also has a mild diuretic effect that supports urine flow and waste excretion without causing fluid loss. Brew 1 cup of unsweetened green tea, no honey, no milk, and drink it within the first 30 to 45 minutes of waking. If caffeine is a concern in the afternoon or evening, green tea's caffeine content is roughly 1/3 that of coffee, and its L-theanine content smooths the stimulant effect considerably. The third drink, cucumber and mint water. This one surprises many of my patients because of its simplicity, and because they don't expect something this gentle to be doing something significant inside the body. Cucumber is one of the most hydrating foods in existence. It is 95% water by weight, and it contains compounds including cucurbitacins and flavonoids that have demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects in kidney tissue in animal model studies. More directly relevant for blood sugar, cucumber has been shown in human studies to modestly lower fasting blood glucose levels when consumed regularly. A study published in Plant Foods for Human Nutrition found that cucumber extract reduced fasting blood sugar in participants with prediabetes over a 4-week period. Mint adds a layer of benefit. Menthol compounds in mint have a mild antispasmodic effect on the digestive system, and importantly, mint has been studied for its ability to reduce the inflammatory response in gastric and intestinal lining, which is where much of the metabolic signal to the pancreas originates. Slice 4 to 5 cucumber rounds and a small bunch of fresh mint into a glass of water the night before. Drink it cold or at room temperature as your third morning fluid. The fourth drink, turmeric golden water. The evidence base for curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, in kidney and metabolic health, is one of the most robust in nutritional science.